I have with me Grandmaster Harshit Raja. Hello, Harshit bhai.
Hi, Sagar bhai.
And Harshit, you have just recently recorded your first ever ChessBase video course, and that is a powerful 1e4 repertoire for white.
It's for the first time that I've made a course, and it caters people who are just getting into chess and are looking for an opening or ways to start playing with white. And
Wow.
I've basically given them a lot of openings and ideas where they don't have to know a lot. You watch this course and you'll be good to go, at least in terms of the opening.
Wow, I'm very curious to see what all you have recommended. So, the course is roughly around 4 hours long or something like that.
Yes. The video length is around 4 hours, but I've also, I think, attached PGN files. So once you watch that course and you kind of want to refer to what lines I've showed, you can also look at the moves and the notation so that it becomes easier to remember.
Interesting. So, the repertoire begins with 1e4 for white, and for
Yes.
every major move that black has, you have given something for white.
E4 best by test, yeah?
So, whoever goes through this can play 1e4 already, like in their.
This is the opening I used to play when I first started out chess, and it's very like I kind of find it to be slightly more aggressive than d4, and I think it gives white great chances to kind of get a dynamic game.
So, when you play
So
e4, the most common reply is e5,
exactly. The most common reply is e5. Then I'm going to develop my knight to f3 and knight
attacking the
c6,
pawn.
attacking the pawn. So black defends it. And almost everyone is well prepared when we play this move bishop to b5. Everyone has studied this extensively. At least, whoever starts chess, that's the move they look at. So I recommend bishop c4.
The
And yes,
Italian.
even Italian. This move has also been getting picked up a lot recently at the top level. But I think in the club level, this move has a very it's very interesting to play this move because it's a bit about plans. So my plan is simple. We go, let's say d3, knight f6, black develops his knight. We castle, simple. Black castles. We go c3. The reason we go c3 is to try and push this pawn to d4. So black very often defends the pawn on e5 with d6. Whenever he goes d6, he protects the e5 pawn, which now means that the knight on c6 has a free hand to move somewhere and it wants to go to a5 to capture our bishop on c4, which is worth more than that knight. So we should protect it. So let's say we go bishop to b3. Black plays a move like a6 or a5 to also have space for his bishop. And then I really like this idea of going knight to d2. And if black goes bishop e6, I was always a big fan of this idea knight from d2 to c4 and then jumping into e3. So we basically, instead of going for the rook e1 knight f1 route,
So, this one.
we
From here, many people go this and then go from here to here or like this. But you are going directly from the other side, a shortcut.
exactly. A shortcut from c4 to e3. And yes, there are some lines where I also recommend going from f1 to g3. But if given the chance, I would love for the people who watch my course to go for this idea of knight c4, knight e3, and getting control of those important central squares.
Very nice. And so, knight f3, knight c6, you have bishop c4. Does the course also cover something like Petrov?
It does cover something like Petrov has been getting picked up so much recently, so I had to cover it. So after knight f3, knight f6, I recommend d4 here.
Oh. Didn't you play this move and won a game at World Blitz Championship recently?
I actually know I played knight takes
Ah, you
e5.
took here.
I took that pawn
That was
against David
against David
Paravian.
Paravian.
Yes, but the thing is that this course is very different covers different openings than the openings that I would play myself right now at my stage.
Hmm.
But I think this course is perfect for the people who are looking for this slightly aggressive repertoire and trying to trick their opponents early in the opening to get an advantage.
Nice. So I have a question. What is the difference between playing d4 here and taking the pawn? Like, what kind of positions do you get when you play d4?
So my biggest aim is that I want this element of surprise to be present. Because when you play knight takes e5, everyone is going to be well prepared. So
Hmm.
you want to kind of bring them out in unfamiliar territories
You want
and
to be
play
tricky,
on your own
tricky.
terms. Tricky, tricky.
Yeah.
So true to my style, I have recommended this line. If they play knight takes e4, then I've recommended bishop to d3. And if they go d5, then we play knight takes e5. And basically, after bishop d6, we go castles. And after black goes castles, we go c4, immediately attacking the central pawns. And this is how this line develops. And I find white's play to be very easy here. And wherever white's play is easy, I think the club players are going to love it.
Right. Okay, so that kind of covers e4, e5, the way you are going to do that. Then the main move comes Sicilian. That's
e5.
also a very popular way to meet e4.
Yeah, and I think I'm the proudest to show this line that I've recommended in my course, which is bishop to e2.
Wow.
A super rare move, and the whole idea of this move is that white wants to go d3,
Mhm.
f4, knight f3, almost against everything that black does. So that's the whole plan, that you are going to play this setup almost against everything that black does. Let's say black goes
But
knight
tell us, how
c6.
did you get inspired to recommend a move bishop e2?
That's a great question. So if we flip the board for 1 second, and we look at when white plays this move pawn to c4. So I was looking at a game from Arjun Irigaisi, one of the top players in the world, and someone who loves to take chances with both sides. He played this move pawn to e5. White, his opponent, played knight c3, and I saw Arjun playing this move bishop to e7. And then he followed this up by playing d6 and f5 on the next two moves. And then I also saw Arvind Chidambaram doing this at Stepan Avagyan Memorial. And I was like, wow, I mean, this is fascinating that black can just choose such an aggressive setup so early on the stage. Why don't I do this with white?
Wow.
So if we now switch the board and we see that when we play e4, c5, bishop e2, we get to play the same setup as Arjun and Arvind with a tempo up with white.
Nice. So let's say, for
And
example, if I do knight c6,
simple,
d3,
I'm going to do the same. D3. You play
g6,
g6,
f4.
f4. Bishop g7, I'll develop my knight to f3. As I said, let's say they go d6, I castles, knight f6. And here, white has two very important ideas. And I would like for you guys to just pause for a minute or two and try to understand these two important ideas that I'm referring to. One of them, once you're back, is this move pawn to c3. And the idea is to read out your knight from b1 to a3 to c2 and sometimes even to e3. Who knows? Or it can even go from a3 to c4. This is one idea. And the other idea that we've seen a lot in these kind of positions where you're trying to launch an attack is queen to e1. And the reason this move is important, as once black castles, the queen on h4 acts as a very big catalyst towards white attack as soon as he pushes f5.
So pawn goes f5, bishop can go to h6, knight to
Boom.
g5, rook opens up, and it's a big attack.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this is how I want the players who are watching my course to play. Like, just play aggressive chess right from the beginning, put pressure on your opponent.
Amazing. Okay. So this one is a very interesting setup. Is there anything that black can do to spoil this setup?
So e4, c5, bishop e2. A challenging way to play against this is playing pawn to d5.
Mm. Because if I take queen takes, I want to attack the queen, but my pawn is hanging here.
Exactly. Your pawn is hanging on g2, and that's why after d5, yes, you can of course take on d5 and play knight f3, and white has a huge lead in development.
Mm.
But let's say black does this after e4, c5, bishop e2. He first plays knight c6, and once we play d3, only then does he go for d5. And if black does this, I think we can still very often just continue with our own idea of playing pawn to f4.
Wow. Because if
And
takes,
takes, and
you
we
are
go into
very
this
happy.
endgame, bishop d1. And with the plans that I'm going to recommend in my course, it's going to be easy for you to play this endgame where you have I mean, I'm not saying that white has an advantage, but I'm just saying that if you know the plans, it's easier to play with white.
Nice.
And no, having this knowledge can give you a practical advantage.
Very cool.
So
Okay.
e4, c5, bishop e2, trying to just take your opponent into completely unfamiliar territories, I think is how I recommend to play in my course.
So
And then,
after, yes.
yes, and for Caro-Kann also I've
Okay.
found something very cool.
So we
So if
see e4, e5. We have seen e4, c5. Now we go to Caro-Kann, which is also a very popular opening.
very popular. And here I recommend the two knight system, which is knight to f3, black goes pawn to d5, and we go knight to c3, and we are trying to get a quick lead in the development. Bishop g4 is just three main
Very,
options.
very
One is
well known move.
bishop g4 is one. Black can even capture d takes e4, and I'll show you a cool line there. Knight takes, knight f6, queen e2. Tricky, tricky. Don't you touch your knight on b8. That would be a cool
Oopsie.
checkmate with knight
Oopsie
d6.
moment.
Oopsie doopsie. Then, okay, let's say after queen e2, he takes on e4. Queen takes. He can now develop his knight on d7 to bring into f6. And we go bishop c4. Develop our bishop. If black goes knight f6, I'm going to blunder my queen with knight to e5.
Wow.
This is actually, jokes apart, very important move. Black cannot take the queen on e4, of course, because bishop f7 is mate. You force black to go e6. And once black goes e6, the bishop on c8 becomes quite passive. We drop back with our queen on e2, and white has a very nice advantage. So this one was a very important line. We sacrificed our queen once in this opening. I'll just quickly show you another variation where we can sacrifice our queen. Bishop g4. We go h3. Okay, he should most likely take, because if he goes back, it just gives white more tempo, right? With g4, and our lead in development grows. So he takes on f3. Queen takes. He goes knight to f6, challenging the pawn on e4. And we get center with pawn to d4. Black chops the pawn on e4. And yes, you can actually sacrifice the pawn on d4 with knight takes. But what I recommend in the course is just queen to e3, keeping it solid. And now we're going to capture an e4 on the next turn. And here, I was playing a game against an international master in Serbia, and he chose to play the move knight to d5 to try and spoil my pawn structure. Because once I took on e4, he was very happy to take my knight on c3, but in fact, this actually only helps white, as the rook on a1 gets an open line to attack the pawn on b7. My pawn on c3 supports the pawn on d4. So actually, these doubled pawns are not a weakness, but a point of strength for white's position. My opponent played knight d7. I went rook b1, attacking the pawn on b7. He goes queen c8. defending it, or queen c7, doesn't
Let's see
matter.
it.
I go bishop to d3, developing my bishop. He goes e6, and of course, I play bishop to g5,
Setting
setting up.
up a big trap.
It's like basically when you're fishing and you throw a bait and you hope someone catches it, and a big fish fell into my bait as my international opponent, master opponent, played h6. And guys, white to play. Where will you retreat the bishop?
Yes, very important. Do you go here or do you make your bishop go on this diagonal?
Just kidding, guys. Boom! Queen takes e6, sacrificing another queen. And after bishop g6, it's the best kind
Checkmate.
of check. It's
Wow.
checkmate.
It's such a beautiful game, and it was against a 24-22 rated opponent in a classical tournament.
Yes.
Wow. That's a huge win. So against Caro-Kann, you give the 2 knights here.
Yes.
Then there is another opening, which is the French defense.
Against the French defense. And for that, I have this very special croissant. Oui,
Oh,
croissant. But I have recommended something very old school for this. E4, E6, D4,
don't tell me exchange
D5.
variation. No.
No, bhai. I've played the very old styled knight to D2, the Tarash variation.
Mhm.
And the point of this is that if black plays something like c5, we kind of want to go in uh, a very systematic approach where we take the pawn on d5. If black captures with the e pawn or the queen, two options. If he captures with the e pawn, we are going to be playing against the isolated pawn on d5, where at some point we capture that pawn on c5. And I basically highlight this important idea of how we want to exchange our c1 bishop to his f8 bishop in these kind of positions, which would give white a nice strategic advantage. So not only have I covered very aggressive options, I've also covered this one option with knight to d2, which kind of gives a slightly positional approach. But if they take with the queen, again, we are flexible. If they take with the queen, we go knight f3. After c takes d4, we sacrifice a pawn, we go bishop c4, we go castles, and we are looking at again a position where we are trying to play with initiative.
Mm. This is a very well-known line for white, and I think maybe your inputs will help here to know how to play. And there's also knight f6 here, to which we
There is
push the
also knight
pawn.
f6. Yes, if they go knight f6, we get center with e5, black goes back. f4 is one option, and you kind of get this connect 4 with f4, and when you play pawn to c3 next. That's a very interesting idea. But I want my audience to just play simple chess. Go bishop d3. If black plays c5, you go c3, you protect your pawn chain for sure. And then your next move will be knight to e2. And f6 is a blunder here. Very important to note this, that f6 is a bad move because white has knight to f4.
Mm.
Hitting that pawn on e6, that key pawn. Also, the queen on d1 opens up to give queen to h5 check. And already you can see how after knight, this position has very good harmony for white.
So actually, if you want to go for this line, you must take on d4 and then play f6.
Exactly.
Because then if he attacks, then you can take the pawn here. And then there is
And
this
then
very interesting
long line. Knight g6 takes queen h8. Yes.
something like this,
Knight
right?
f6, correct. King f7, castles. And if someone is interested in this, I'll just stop it after castles e5. How knight b3 is a very important move. To challenge the most important piece of black, which is that knight on d4. However, that being said, black does have enough compensation in this position thanks to his central pawns on e5 and d5, and our queen being slightly out of the game on h8.
Mm.
So this is an interesting way to also challenge black. What I recommend instead is after f6, you just take that pawn on f6.
Oh.
Black captures back with the knight. You go knight to f3, bishop d6. You go castles. And again, very important that if black castles, Very important strategic move, guys. I've mentioned it once already in this video. So hopefully you're alert enough to find the move bishop f4.
Mm. To
You
trade the
try to
bishops.
exchange exactamo. You try to trade the dark squared bishops and get control of that important e5 square. And after this, you can just notice how that bishop on d7, bishop on c8, sorry, is very
Passive.
passive.
So he must
So
play here instead of castle queen
queen
c7
c7,
to stop
exactly.
bishop f4.
He has to go queen to c7 to stop bishop to h4. And here I basically recommend white to play slow moves to just keep improving the position. One of the moves is to play this h3 at some point to just prevent, so let's say black goes castles. And I think I even recommend something like a3 at some point to just stop black from even having knight before ideas. And we are basically just trying to slowly improve our position, because whenever black goes e5, we again get this position where black has this isolated pawn on t5, and that's the pawn that we are going to be playing against.
Nice. So that also covers to some extent the French defense, which means that
Mhm.
we have already seen e4, e5, e4, c5, e4, e6, and e4, c6. What about these sidelines like e4,
With d6.
d6, e4, g6?
That has also been covered, because obviously in club players they're going to be seeing a lot of these moves like d6, g6, also d5.
Oh, yes.
The Scandinavian opening is also something that I have covered in my course. But just uh, to sum it up in short, if black goes pawn to d5, our whole point in the opening stage of the game is to get control of the center. And here after e d5, queen d5, knight c3, let's say black goes queen a5, white goes d4, white goes knight f3 next, and I've shown exactly where white's pieces should belong in order to get a comfortable position. It's not like white has only one way, but we need to choose, and I've chosen it for you so that you don't have to work hard for that. If black goes e4 d6, the finally I'll just say that after d4, knight f6, knight c3, e5, I've actually recommended to take the pawn on e5 and
Oh,
go into the end game
really?
and challenge black in this position after bishop to c4. Um, you're trying to say that black has already moved his king once, which means that he loses his right to castle, and white is going to long castle in many of these variations, and
Wow.
try to
Very
get an advantage.
interesting because this looks like an equal endgame, but if you are well prepared, maybe you get an edge as white.
Exactly. And I played this in World Rapid Blitz myself with decent success.
Aha. So e4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, e5. If something like g6, do you recommend like f4?
I, I'm trying to refrain myself from making moves which require you to
Very
be
well.
very alert about your, because the thing is when you play a move like f4, it does come with a lot of responsibility, because you do weaken your king side a little bit. Yes, it might be objectively the best move, but I think it's not so easy to play the next few moves after that. So I would just simply recommend going knight to f3, and then uh, one of the ideas for white is to go bishop d3 and bishop e3 to kind of get these four pieces together. And another idea is we just go something like bishop to e2, and after castles we castles, and we basically play this position where white has great center already, as you can see. It's just uh, it's just that how are we going to meet when black is going to play this move pawn to e5 at some point. That's basically the biggest question. And there are a few ways you can go h3 as you were trying to go, but and then after e5, just bishop e3. This is one of the ways to continue. Very often, white even takes the pawn on e5 and says that okay, I'm happy with that exchange as well. So, uh, so my whole aim of this course was not to show move by move what's the best way for white to play, but it was to give you a very good idea and very good plans to in all openings as to where your pieces should belong and what's the general plan for you. And it's and most of the variations are slightly rare, and I kind of bring in my own viewpoint when I'm recommending some of these lines. So I'm hoping that it can help some of the players to kind of boost or elevate their game when they're playing against their friends.
Amazing. And through this video, guys, you've got a good idea of direction of how to play with one e4 a little bit. You can try it out, in your online games, in your maybe friendly games, and then learn a bit more. And then later on, when you want to go deeper, you can get Harshit Bhai's course. It's available in the description, so you can check it out. And then people can maybe go deeper into what you have to offer.
मजा आएगा भाई.
It'll be epic, guys. Do check it out. Thank you, Harshit Bhai, for sharing this
Thanks a
knowledge
lot
for with
for
everyone, so that they can at least know that okay, this is also a way to play, and maybe they can try experimenting with it.
yeah, I'm hoping that this video kind of gives them a good idea of what to expect from the main course. So thanks a lot for making this video with me, Sagar.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.